What's up, guys? Welcome back to the Ballroom Podcast. This is episode 7. I'm your host, Rohan and Arav, and as always, I'm here with my good friend and co-host, Arav. What's going on?
I'm good, Rohan. We had 4 really good games in the second round. Lots of high quality basketball. Um, one really close game, the Golden State one. I'm super excited to go over all these with you, especially that one. Um, let's get straight into it.
Yeah, let's do it.
So first of all, we got the 3-2 in the East, the Bucks at the Celtics. The Bucks won this game 101-89. And for the Bucks, I mean, like always, Giannis was dominant. He only shot 9 of 25 from the field, but even in like a slight off game, he was just super dominant. He had 24 points, 13 rebounds, 12 assists. He had a triple double. Um, yeah, and then finally to like in that game to like put the dagger into the Celtics, he had that sick self alley oop in the fourth
Yeah,
quarter. Would you think about that?
just classic Giannis, just like
Exactly.
imposing his will. He
Mhm.
usually doesn't showboat, but I think in that moment it was definitely warranted because he was just dominating that whole game, and the
Yeah.
Celtics were pretty
Mhm.
depleted and demoralized at that point, and that was like the dagger in the heart.
Yeah, definitely. That definitely demoralizing for Boston. I mean, also the rest. Let's not overlook the rest of the Bucks. It was just an overall like solid team performance, from them. Brook Lopez, 10 rebounds. He was huge in defending the paint along with Giannis, which forced Boston to take 53s, and they only made 18 of them. So Brook Lopez was huge. They both just clogged the paint. Bobby Portis again, being a superstar in his role, 11 rebounds, 15 points. And let's talk about Drew Holiday. Huge game, 25 points, and 3 steals, 9 rebounds.
Yeah, I mean he's always huge for them, especially in
Yeah,
guard in his with his defense, like guarding Jalen Brown and Jason Tatum. Like he's going to be huge for them in this series, and for him to be able to put it together on offense as well as his defense, like that's huge for them because him as a two-way threat is like an amazing
exactly.
second star to Giannis, third star, especially when they get Middleton back, which hopefully comes back soon. But while he's out, like that type of production for Giannis and to go along with the complementary pieces, like Grayson Allen was also huge for them, and that's what we talked about, like him and Grayson Allen being sort of
Exactly.
stepping into that Middleton role. He had 11 points, three threes, which were huge, and just them collectively and as a group, just collectively to put it together and help Giannis out. Like they had a great game, and they definitely were stifling on defense for sure, which is what fueled their offense.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. And their defense is definitely a different breed than the Nets defense. So,
Yeah,
and they locked up the Celtics. So the Celtics are definitely going to need to make adjustments to the Bucks defense. I mean, they had 11 steals. Um, yeah, they,
and
like
also
I said, go
like
ahead.
this, like the Celtics who were like bullying the Nets in the first series with their physicality. You can kind of see like how once they face like an actual like another
Oh
physical
yeah, for
team,
sure.
like
Exactly.
they were just the Bucks just were bullying them, and that's what the Celtics were doing to the Nets. So it's super interesting to see how sort of it can all change and like how each series is so different, and the matchups play a huge role in that.
For sure. And like like I said before, they held the Celtics to um only making 18 threes out of 50. Um and like they won this game, but I feel for the Bucks, throughout the entire series, they're gonna need this type of production from like guys like Holiday, Grayson Allen to fill in for the absent scoring of Chris Middleton, who brings along like 20 to 25 points, even 30 points per game.
Yeah,
So yeah, they definitely need to just like keep it up the whole series. And I mean
sure.
for the they also took home court advantage with it, which is massive. Going deeper into the playoffs. Let's talk about the Celtics here. Um, yeah, Jason Tatum, Hal Horford, Jalen Brown, Marcus Smart, all pretty bad shooting nights. And let's give credit to the Bucks defense for that.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. I mean, that's just the story of the Bucks, right? They're a defense team first. Like that's how they fuel basically their entire offense. That's how they play. And once they stifle their opposing teams, and when the other teams are out of rhythm, like they're basically the Celtics were just jacking up threes in this game. They couldn't get anything in the paint
Hmm.
with Brook Lopez and Giannis manning the middle. Like it was tough for them. And when you're not making your threes, like it's really difficult to get scoring, especially when you can't get those easy buckets at the rim. So um, yeah, I mean the Bucks game plan is that was their whole game plan coming into the game, just pack the paint, force everyone to make shots. They're forcing Peyton Pritchard to make shots. forcing Jaylen Brown to make shots who just couldn't really buy a bucket in this game. He missed a lot of threes, and when everyone's just missing their shots, your offense is out of rhythm, and that's what the Bucks were able to do and just capitalize on that.
Yeah, and speaking of Jaylen Brown, he also had 7 turnovers in the game. He also has a nagging hamstring injury, but will most likely play through it. So, I mean, he has to play through it pretty much for the Celtics to have like a chance to beat the Bucks. So, hopefully, I think he'll be able to make the adjustments as needed. He has his trainers, um, medical team, so I think he'll be good. But hopefully, he can make the proper adjustments to play like back at his all-star level. Um, yeah, and also like not much production from the bench. Derek White had 10 points, which isn't that much. So which is the most that their bench had. So I think it was just like for the Celtics, a combination of getting suffocated by Milwaukee and also just a very poor shooting day.
Yeah, exactly. Like I said, like they were forcing like players like Peyton Pritchard to shoot threes, who shot 2 of 8 from 3, and Marcus Smart was 1 of 6 from 3. Jaylen Brown 3 of 9 from 3. So when these guys are all having poor shooting nights and you can't really get anything at the rim, like it's going to be a difficult. You're gonna have a difficult time to score, and that was kind of the story of the game. They're definitely going to need to adjust for that, and obviously, that's kind of what their big thing is going into game 2.
Yeah, for sure. But like a bright spot, I guess, for the Celtics, they're playing like this and they only lost by 12, which 12 isn't like a horrible margin.
Yeah.
And I feel like if they play better, they definitely can. We can see them. We know they can shoot much better. They can
Mhm.
yeah. So hopefully in
Yeah,
game 2 and in the future they can bring in improve their shooting to
exactly.
compete with Milwaukee.
And obviously, like they're not going to be able to stop Giannis. I think they did
Mhm.
the best they could in terms of like handling him and sort of like containing him to the best of their abilities. But even then, like he still had a monster game, and he was just his playmaking. I think was so like just the reason their offense just unlocked for them this game. Like he's basically doing everything on offense. When he's not passing, he's scoring. But when he's not scoring, like his passing is unbelievable. Like
Yeah, and
getting
it keeps
everyone in,
improving.
exactly, getting everyone involved. Like when he's getting into the paint, like he can get to the paint at will. But if there's someone there blocking him, like he can just pass it out, and he's making the right reads and getting his teammates involved and setting them up. So it was just a great all around performance, to be honest. And obviously, it's tough for the Celtics to handle, but they're just going to need to step it up on offense in order for them to get back in the series.
Yeah, for sure. All right,
All right,
should we move on to our next game?
let's do it. This is the game after Celtics Bucks on Sunday. Warriors Grizzlies, an absolute thriller. What a
Yeah,
game!
probably definitely the
Um,
most exciting game of the game ones.
For sure, for sure. Warriors won this one by 117, 116, went down to the wire. They grinded out the win and stole it on the road, even without Draymond Green, who we all know got ejected after being hit with a flagrant 2 in the second quarter. What were your thoughts on that one?
Um, I feel like everyone's saying that I mean, he's saying that he didn't deserve it. A lot of people on Instagram are saying that he didn't deserve flagrant foul. It's like mixed. It's controversial. A lot of
Yeah,
people are saying, oh, he did deserve it. A lot of people are saying he didn't. I feel like he did. He kind of just
yeah.
like swung at who was it? Who did he hit?
Brandon Clark.
He swung at Brandon Clark and pulled his jersey down, brought him to the ground. Although
Yeah,
showed he wanted to like pick him up. I feel like that was just because just to not get ejected. I feel like
yeah,
people do that a lot. Um,
exactly. But I think like when I was watching it too, like my initial reaction was like it looked like a bad foul, but like I was, even though most people were saying it was going to be or it should have been a flagrant one, like just because of Draymond's reputation, and he even
yeah,
said
that's true.
this in his own podcast. He had a podcast like right after the game, which he
Hmm.
addressed it in, but it was basically more to do with the reputation than the actual play itself. So that's why my initial reaction when I saw it was like, oh, it's probably going to be a flagrant 2 just because it's
Yeah.
Draymond. And it was obviously a bit of a hard foul. So, but like nonetheless, the Warriors were able to come out with the win and close it out down the stretch after being down most of the game. And in the
Hmm.
last minute, it was a pretty eventful last minute.
Yeah,
Klay
it
hit
was
a
crazy.
go ahead three with 36 seconds left, which put him up 1. And then Klay then missed 2 free throws, which would have put him up by 3, which was just so unlike Klay. It was very uncharacteristic, but he then redeemed himself with the game-winning stop on Ja when he contested his layup at the buzzer. So they definitely showed their playoff experience in closing out this game, especially in a hostile environment in Memphis on the road. And despite the ejection of Draymond. It was just a collective team effort, and it was a huge game for them to steal a game on the road.
Yeah, yeah, definitely amazing performance from Golden State and Memphis too. Um, I mean, additionally for the Warriors, we had another pool party. This time it was in May, so we're getting closer to June, getting closer to
We're
summer.
getting there.
We're getting there. 31 points, 9 assists, 8 rebounds. 60, which is 60%. He shot 60% from the field, 50% from three. And then he also had like really clutch passes. He had one for Wiggins. Which was
That one pass on the baseline, like
yeah,
that read was unreal.
that
Like
was
that was
unreal.
such a great pass.
There was also one like in the second quarter where he threw it with one hand to Wiggins, who got the and one.
Yeah.
He threw it like around the Grizzlies defender, which was he's just developing into like a true superstar.
Yeah, especially off the bench, which we
Yeah.
usually know, like he struggles coming off the bench. And obviously in this game, Kerr, who we mentioned earlier in our preview, he started GP2 in order to defend John Bain, but coming off the bench and having this sort of production was just huge. And it kind of showed like we can trust him coming off the bench, and especially with Curry and Klay starting over him. And that's just a huge luxury for the Warriors to have.
Yeah, definitely. It shows his growth and shows how he's developing. He's developing into like he can come off the bench, he can start and still perform at like deliver 30 plus points, almost 10 assists and 10 rebounds.
Yeah. And especially when like Steph and Klay were struggling in this game, right? They both didn't shoot well. They didn't shoot relatively well for their standards. Steph shot 8 of 20, ended with 24. Klay only shot 6 of 19 and he ended with 15. So, but they both just had really timely buckets down the stretch. And that's kind of what closed it out. And they'll definitely be looking to have better shooting games in game 2 and going forward. But Poole was just huge for them in terms of having like that third scorer who can sort of pick up that slack when Curry and Klay are kind of a little bit off.
Yeah, definitely. And Curry, although he didn't have the best shooting night, that pass to Gary Payton was huge, and the Warriors definitely wouldn't have won that game without that.
Yeah,
that was amazing. Just like Poole's baseline pass to Wiggins, that was amazing vision from Curry to Payton.
Also Wiggins, shout out Wiggins. Like he had a huge game.
Wiggins.
Like not even just on offense, but like his hustle plays just throughout the game. Like he had huge like offensive rebounds, especially down the stretch in the fourth quarter. He had amazing defense all throughout the game, I thought, and finished with 17 and 8. But his energy was huge for the Warriors and definitely sparked the team.
Yeah,
they'll definitely need that.
Yeah, he got on the floor, like he dove multiple times, which just shows how he was hungry. He's hungry, and he needs to be like that, like for the whole series or the whole playoffs. Just like every time he steps on the court, he needs to be that hungry. He needs to dive on the floor for loose balls, and just like give it his all, go all out, so that the Warriors can win, so that his team can prevail.
Exactly, it's just a huge spark for them, definitely. Yeah. For the Grizzlies, though, like they obviously like they led for most of this game, and they just weren't able to close it out down the stretch, especially even with Ja and Jaren having massive games to lead their team. Like Ja finished with a near triple double, 34 points, 10 assists, 9 boards. He shot 13 of 31 from the field, so a bit inefficient. And the Warriors were definitely just daring him to shoot threes all game. He finished 4 of 11 from 3, so he didn't have a great shooting night, but he still produced, and they just fell short, and he missed that game-winning layup, which would have gave them the win. So, he had a great performance, and I'm sure he's just going to keep doing it. Warriors can't really do anything to stop him, even with you can throw anybody at him, you can put GP2 at him, but he's just that good.
Yeah, for sure. And let's talk about one more thing about Steph Curry, and I feel like his defense is kind of overlooked.
Yeah.
But that one block or steal, whatever you can call it, on Ja Morant, that late in the game was crucial, and just like that like led to an intentional foul from the Grizzlies. So that was huge. That huge. Was like
is back to back like huge defensive stops from Klay afterwards. Like Curry and Klay like stepped up massively, and that's basically what won them the game.
Yeah, definitely. And going back to the Grizzlies, Jaren Jackson, monster game. 33 points, 10 rebounds. Just could not miss from 3, especially in the third quarter. I was watching it on my phone, and just was making everything. It was it was crazy. I didn't know he was like
Exactly.
that, but I guess
He's
he,
nice. Like
yeah.
he's a super good three. He's just been like a little inconsistent this year with shooting the ball, but like when he's stroking it, he's one of the best shooting big men in the league for sure.
Mhm.
And but like I mean, it just kind of shows like when he's on the floor, like this is what he can be for the team. He can be a legit second star next to Ja. And just like in Game 6 with against the Wolves, like he stayed out of foul trouble. He played 30 minutes and he had a huge game. Was a huge spark for them. And yeah, so just going forward, like he's definitely, as long as he's on the floor for them and playing big minutes, like he can produce at this level, and that's huge for the Grizzlies, especially to have that sort of second or third scoring option, even with Desmond Bane. Like that's going to be huge for them to try and pull out the series.
Yeah, for sure. And then speaking of Desmond Bane, him and Dylan Brooks both like had a horrible game. They shot horribly, which was it's just one game, but also a big letdown for the Grizzlies. But I feel like yeah, Bane shot. He's probably he in the first round against the Timberwolves. He's probably the best and most consistent scorer. Um, in this game, he only had 9 points on 3 of 10 shooting. Brooks had 8 points on 3 of 13 from the field and 2 for 8 on three. But I have no doubt they'll step it up in game two. Um, they're the Grizzlies are a 2 seed for a reason, and these two guys are a big key
Yeah.
for their success this season, their success in the first round. So I have full confidence they're gonna bring it, and probably shoot the lights out, or at least shoot much better than this game in game two.
Yeah, for sure. And with John Jaren playing the way they did, and Draymond not playing the second half, it was definitely a game they should have closed out, even despite them not shooting well. But I mean, game two will be huge for them to not
Yeah,
completely give up home court and avoid going down 2-0.
definitely, exactly.
So, well, I mean, we'll be looking forward to a really good series going forward. All these games should be super exciting.
Yeah, for sure. I'm very much looking forward to game two.
Yeah,
Of
definitely. I
all
should
these
move on.
series. Yeah.
Yeah,
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 let's do it.
definitely.
Let's do it. Next we got the 4-1 in the East, the Philadelphia 76ers at the Miami Heat. The Heat took this game 106-92. And I mean for the Sixers, like obviously they didn't have Joel Embiid. So that was huge for them. I feel like I feel like without Harden like stepping up big time, I feel like he needs to step up big time if the Sixers are going to win games against the Heat without Joel Embiid. In this
Yeah,
game, he did not step up. He shot 5 of 13 from the field, 2 of 7 from 3. He had 5 turnovers and only 16 points. He needs to be way better and play like that Houston Harden, like I said, like we said in episode 6, and
yeah,
he needs to drop like 30 plus points per game without Embiid. Needs to play the best basketball of his life, give it his all, his absolute all.
yeah.
I mean, Philly traded him for a reason, right? And I feel like this performance, or like how he's been performing, is kind of unacceptable.
Yeah. Well, I mean, to be fair, like had pretty much to do everything in terms of like facilitating an offense, and obviously he was like a bit gassed at the end because all the load was on him in terms of getting the offense organized. And I mean,
Yeah,
outside of
but
Tobias Harris, Tyrese Maxey, and Harden, like there was no scoring for them. And obviously
yeah,
he didn't like score as much as he should have, but it was in general like I don't think they have enough offense
hmm
to keep up with the Heat. And especially with the Heat defense, like getting past the Heat defenders is super difficult. So it's a lot
yeah,
to
that's
ask
true.
for Harden, like in this series, or especially in these first couple games. But I mean, obviously the Sixers did get some good output from Tobias Harris. He had a really aggressive and solid game, 27 points,
Yeah,
11 of
definitely.
18 from the field. So they'll definitely need him to keep it up offensively, to keep them afloat. And Maxi with 19 points, 6 of 15 from the field. I mean, for a 21-year-old, like that's an amazing game. And
hmm
it's a lot to ask for him to also like have 25 plus or 30 plus a game for in these games. So I don't know. I thought they did the best they could with what they had. They were really competitive in the first half. I thought they had
Yeah,
the lead at the half. It just they kind of just ran out of gas, and you could tell they didn't have the scoring output to keep up with the Heat.
yeah, definitely. But also like Harden, he was doing it in Houston, right? Even when
Yeah,
like Chris Paul was injured for some time. And the Rockets were still competing with
yeah,
Golden State in that conference final. Harden
yeah.
was dropping like 30 plus
It's definitely
points.
not the same Harden though. I mean,
Yeah,
he
but
can't really blow by defenders like he did. And it's like especially against these like all like elite perimeter defenders that the Heat have. Like we've seen it all the year. Like he just doesn't have that same explosive step. So
mhm.
I don't expect him to do anything like out of the ordinary that we haven't seen this year. This is kind of who he is now.
Yeah. Also, I mean, for the Sixers, you can't really expect to win against a team like the Heat when you shoot 6 of 34 from three, which is
Yeah,
17.6%, which is like abysmal. So
yeah,
you can't expect to win when you're shooting like that. And although they shot like this in game one, I feel they won't do it again in game two. So I feel like they only lost by 14, and they kept competitive with the Heat. They were even winning at halftime. So if they can shoot a little better, I mean a lot better, a little bit.
just a
They shot
little bit.
17.
Maybe 8 of 34 would be better. Then they'll win the game.
um, then if they can shoot like a lot better, then which I have no doubt they will, then they could be more competitive with the Heat and have a chance at game two.
Yeah. They'll have another shot at. They just need one of these two games, and they'll have another shot at it in game two.
Mhm.
But going back to Philly, one a piece, like that'll be huge for them, and
Definitely.
hopefully Joel coming back in game three or game four. If not, if they go down 2-0, like game three is obviously just do or die for them. Like they're gonna have all the pressure in the world, and that'll pretty much make or break their season in this series.
Yeah, definitely. I think Philly's bright spot was that they played really, really well to end the first half.
Yeah,
They went on a 15-4 run and even took the lead into halftime. So if they can play like this in the final first six, like they did in the final first six, I mean the last 6 minutes of the first half of the second quarter, then then they're in good shape and they can um, have a good shot in game two and for the rest of the series.
yeah, yeah. But even when they were making those runs in the second quarter, like I just thought like the Heat they were still the better team. Like it took their best basketball, the Sixers' best basketball, just to sneak a 1 point lead in. And but you
Yeah.
could tell like the Heat they were in control on offense and on defense. Like they were getting the shots they wanted. They were getting to the line and stuff like that, and getting stops as well. But it was just a classic Heat performance. They were stifling on defense. They were making their shots. They were getting to the rim and getting contact. So yeah, I mean, I think the Heat are definitely still in control of the series, and we definitely saw it in this game.
Yeah, for sure. And Tyler, let's give a shout out to Tyler Hero. He was massive, and I mean massive off the bench, despite he had like an upper respiratory bug that like affected his whole routine. And he's coming off that he dropped 25 points, 7 assists, 4 of 6 from the three, which shows why he's like the top six man of the year candidate, maybe behind Steph Curry. Um,
I mean,
yeah, but
I think we could all put our life savings on him winning it this year.
yeah. Um, I mean, they did shoot 25% from three, but the Sixers did shoot 17.6%. So, um, although they shot 25%, they're stifling their defense was able to shut
Yeah,
down the Sixers. And like as you and I have preached in the previous episodes, defense wins series, defense wins championship, which is why the Heat are like the one seed. So
yeah. Yeah, I mean, and obviously that's how they play, right? They're a defense first team. They're not one team to outscore you. They're not going to be like a running gun team that's just going to shoot the lights out. So that this is basically their recipe for success. It's just stifle the other team on defense and just make your shots and get to the hoop and get easy buckets and just keep the ball moving. So it was just a solid performance. Definitely took care of business at home.
yeah, definitely. All right, should we move on?
Yeah. Let's look at the last game. Mavs and Suns. The Suns won 121, 114. Mavs made a little bit of a run at the end of the game, sort of made it a bit competitive, cut it to like 6 points in the last minute. But for the most part, the Suns were just too much to handle for the Mavs. Like they led the entire game. It was their third wire to wire win of the playoffs. And it was a collective effort with six players in double figures. They shot over 50% from the field as a team, and about 40% from three. So they were just scoring at will. And Ayton had a monster game. He had 25 and 8.
Yeah.
He dominated the paint. Mavs were with the Mavs like not having really any big men and just playing small. So that's basically what he's going to have to do all series, and that's going to give him a massive advantage because they'll be able to just dominate the paint.
Yeah, and I feel like Aiton is like now like showing he's growing into like the reason why he was drafted first overall by the Suns. He's becoming like a huge key piece for the Suns and like an actual like crucial part of like a big three, like a solid big three like a championship big three for Phoenix.
Exactly.
Um,
And it's, yeah.
no, go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, I just thought, I mean, Booker and CP just did what they normally do.
Yeah.
Book had 23, he filled the stat sheet, 23, 9 boards, 8 assists, and CP added 19. He was just efficient as always, continuing his masterful shooting. So, yeah, it was just a solid Suns performance. They obviously all were contributing, and that's kind of how they play. They're just a great overall, collective team effort.
Yeah. Yeah. And Cam Johnson as well, 17 points, 3 of 6 from 3. I feel like every time the Mavericks were trying to make like a comeback, like they cut the leads down to like after being down by like 14 or 15 or 18, even 18, they cut the leads down to like 8. Then they find like Bridges or Johnson in the corner and they just hit like 1 3 or 2 3s in a row and just like demoralizes Dallas.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. I think on the telecast they were saying it was their 7th game this playoffs where they shot over 50% as a team,
Yeah, I remember that. Yeah.
which is insane. Like they just shoot the ball so efficiently, and that's because they get such good looks. They have great ball movement. Obviously, with CP as their point guard, like he's facilitating at such a great level, and they're just all able to get high quality shots, and that's kind of how they operate on offense. It makes them so good.
For sure. And I mean for the Mavericks, they trailed like the whole game. They went down in the first quarter. They went down big in the first quarter. They were down 10. They even were down 20-6 at one point. The game kind of hovered at like 10 for the whole game. They weren't able to string together enough stops, like I said, to like cut like even to cut like a good chunk of their lead, to cut it to like 1 or 2, and even like tie the game. Like I said, every time they cut it to like 8 or 6, someone for the Suns would just hit a big time three and just like extend the lead even further. And
Exactly.
not let the Mavericks cut back, which is why the Suns were such a dangerous and championship winning team. They just shoot so efficiently.
Yeah. Yeah. The Mavs they couldn't string together enough stops. That's kind of what prevented them from cutting into the lead and getting themselves into the game, which they ended up doing at the end of the game, the last like 4 minutes, and they were able to claw back into the lead, but they just didn't have enough time and they weren't able to do it for all 48 minutes. But obviously Luka was just unreal in this game. He had 45, 12 boards, 8 assists. But watching him, like he was just like masterful in the pick and roll. Like every time with Dwight Powell, or it doesn't even matter, Dorian Finney-Smith, whoever's in the pick and roll with him, like he's just getting to his spots at will. Like he's creating space like at such a great level. Like he can basically get anywhere he wants on the court and get to his shot, whether it's the floater or getting to the rim. And then if he's not scoring, he's just making the right reads when he's in the paint on that pick and roll, playmaking, kicking it out for threes. Like he has so many shooters at his disposal, and that's why like that Porzingis trade was so big for them, because it just opened up the entire court. And now he has basically just 4 guys on the perimeter that he can kick out to, and that he trusts and that he like will make the three, and that are all prolific 3-point shooters.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, they have Kleba, who is a huge boost, especially in the first half. I think in the first half he had 15 points and went 5 of 6 from 3. Kind of cooled off in the second half, but also he didn't shoot as much, which was give credit for the Phoenix defense for adjusting at halftime and locking him up more, giving more attention to him. Brunson and Dinwiddie didn't give the Dallas enough offensively. They combined 9 of 24 for only 21 points. So kind of like you said, how Luka has like shooters all around, like Dinwiddie and Brunson need to step up and like be those shooters, and that's like I feel like that's the only way for them to beat the Suns. Considering how the Suns played in game 1.
Yeah. I mean, for Brunson and Dinwiddie, I don't think they're as much as like their spot up shooting is what they need, but like they got to be like the facilitators, like those second and third facilitators for Luka, take off some of the offensive pressure, and also like take off some of the defensive pressure that he faces, because when they're all going, like it's going to be hard for the Suns to just commit to Luka when Brunson's scoring at a high level and Dinwiddie scoring at a high level. So it just opens up the court for him as well, and it'll get Luka in the right spots and not have to be swarmed by like Mikal Bridges and Jay Crowder at all times.
Exactly, for sure.
Yeah. But it was a great game, and we'll definitely expect the Mavs to bounce back in game 2, and obviously it's going to be exciting either way.
Yeah, it's gonna be a great series. I'm super excited for game 2 and the rest of the series in general. It's gonna be fun.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that pretty much does it for this one. So I mean, a lot of great games, and looking forward to game twos. Game twos are going to be huge. Some teams are going to need to protect home court to avoid going down 2-0, and other teams are going to try and go up 2-0 and put the pressure on. So it's going to be a lot of good games, and we'll look forward to recapping with those with you next time.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. This was fun. Yeah, peace out.
Yeah, we'll see you guys next time.